The Anyone But Cam Fantasy Football Podcast.
Welcome back to this episode of Season 2 of the Anyone But Cam Fantasy Football Podcast. I am one of your hosts and one of your commissioners. My name is Frankie, and sitting right next to me is Cam. Cam, how's it going?
Oh, it's going excellent, Frankie. I'm sitting right now top of the Alphas, where I belong, and where I intend to stay.
Top of the Alphas. What a prestigious honor to be top of the Alphas. You know that if you were in Alphas, you would be the lowest scorer, yeah?
If I was in Alphas?
Or, well, I mean, if you were in Studs and Stoners, you'd be, right below me.
Yeah, but...
And I'm third place in the Studs and Stoners.
But you lost your games, Frankie. I don't know what to tell you.
Alrighty, so let's go into what we're going to talk about this week. We have our waiver discussion. We'll do a post-division play power rankings, which I know you've all been clamoring for. And then we'll do our usually weekly preview, and then we have a mailbag question as well. How's that sound to you, Cam?
Let's do it.
Let's do it. Alrighty, starting off here, we have one real big ticket item this week. I would say in Wayne Gallman to Logan Roth for $86. Just beating out Dylan Subit, 73, barely an overbid at that point. But he was the hot ticket item this week for sure. And Logan spent, I don't even know how much Fab Logan has left. Let's see. He has $46 left. So he spent like 2/3 of his remaining Fab right about there on that. What do you think about the acquisition?
I mean, I was hearing stuff on podcasts, people's leagues, where they have $100 total Fab and Wayne Gallman going for like $80. So I was actually really surprised how cheap Wayne Gallman was, like relatively. And Logan's missing Lev Bell this week with the Jets bye week, so I don't think it's a bad pickup for him. And honestly, I think Logan's been doing pretty well with his Fab this season. You got DJ Chark week 1 when all the other very expensive wide receivers are going off. And
yeah.
He's been super solid this year. Marcus Robinson was super cheap for him as well. I don't know if he was actually that cheap, but he was a good pickup for Logan. So, I see you, Logan. Doing good. But now you're super poor. So, we'll see how that works out.
Yeah, that is true. And the next big ticket item we have here is Ronald Jones for $31 to Lassie. And he looks like, we'll get to it later, but he is starting him this week, which is interesting. I think he had a bit of an overbid, by about $20 over Jake. Yeah, I don't know if I don't really have much to say about that one.
I don't know if I'm ever going to feel good starting Ronald Jones, man.
You can't. And then the only other really highly ticketed item here is Daniel Jones to Dylan for $21. Danny Dimes going against the Redskins this week, a good matchup for him. And Dylan cuts bait on one of his many backup running backs, trying to really increase that T level.
Yeah, Dylan definitely, we knew he drafted some awful quarterbacks coming out of the draft in Aaron Rodgers and Cam Newton, so he's finally realized that and tried to replace them.
Yeah, and just checking the waivers this morning for us, nothing too crazy. Gardner Minshew only goes for $2. That seems like the steal of the entire season so far. I don't know.
I mean, the intangibles he'll bring to a team are off the charts.
Alrighty, and that's pretty much it for the waivers this week. So let's just get right back. Let's just get right into it. The power rankings. Power rankings. Alrighty, let's get right into it. We're going to start off here. We're going to go tier by tier. We're going to start off with the top tier. We both have all of you guys into 4 tiers. I came to these individually, but we found that we have a lot of similarities, so we'll see how this goes. But I'll start off here with the top tier, and the number 1 and 2 teams I have here are Levi and JP. I feel like Levi is there for some pretty obvious reasons. He is the highest scorer in the league. He has the best week of any roster so far. He's going to have probably another really good week this week, as he's already projected for 136 points. There are definitely some issues on his team, like the fact that both Austin Eckler or especially Derrick Henry has way more touchdowns than his expected amount, compared when you are considering his snap count and things, or not his snap count, but his carry count. And things like that. And, here's another issue with Austin Eckler, with Melvin Gordon coming back soon. So there are definitely some issues on this team for sure, but from what he's done so far and what this team is capable of doing going forward, I think Levi is definitely probably the most deserving of the top tier spot. And then JP has been also one of the highest scorers.
Second highest scorer.
Yeah, he's been very high scoring as well. Some of his keepers have worked out really well in both Tyler Lockett and Deshaun Jackson. Keenan Allen is the wide receiver 1 on the entire season, and he gets to play Miami this week. Oh boy, Evan Ingram is looking like the best of the early tight end best of the early drafted tight ends so far this season. And there's a lot to like here. David Johnson's been playing pretty well too. He's not, shocking the world by any means. He has Patrick Mahomes. Like, this is just a really strong roster, as well as some other like pickups he has with like Larry Fitzgerald. I'm not super jazzed about a lot of people on his bench, but Tony Dorsett's a great pickup, and
Philip Dorsett, not Tony.
University of Pittsburgh legend Tony Dorsett has been retired for quite some time, but Philip Dorsett is great. Keyshawn Johnson as well. Who you guys know how I feel about him. I don't love some of the running backs in terms of Darren Sproles and Royce Freeman. You can never super feel confident about starting really either of those. I'm not sure if he's going to just keep on them for bye weeks or what. But I mean, until then, Jake's team is super strong.
Yeah, I have the same top 2 teams, Levi and JP. What's interesting is both of these teams, I'd say that they're the 2 strongest wide receiver cores in the league, for sure.
Yeah.
And they both have top-tier quarterbacks. Mahomes is a little bit better than Deshaun Watson.
Yeah.
And then they also have top-flight tight ends. Travis Kelce and Evan Ingram are probably 2 of the most consistent performing and high-quality tight ends in this league.
Yep.
And the running backs have been solid, if unspectacular. Levi's have been better, but there's less to feel confident down the line with them. James White has definitely proven some of us wrong, me included, about what we thought he would be this season, but with Sony Michel just being a total bum, it kind of makes sense.
Yeah.
I have a question for you, though, Frankie.
Mm-hmm.
If you were to take the top 4 wide receivers from JP's team and the top 4 wide receivers from Levi's team, whose would you rather have?
Okay, so the top 4 from Jake's are Keenan, Lockett, Metcalf, and Larry. Yeah?
Yeah, I'd say so.
And then from Levi's team, where are you, Levi? There you are. Levi's team, Michael Thomas, Chris Godwin, and then MVS and Sammy. Well, with Drew Brees out, that kind of, for a little bit longer, that definitely makes me lean towards the JP side for sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like JP has the best performing player so far with Keenan Allen, but then you just have less to feel confident about with DK Metcalf, and like Larry Fitzgerald and Tyler Lockett have definitely been really good this season, but they weren't expected to be as good as some of the players on Levi's team. But I'd probably go with JP too. Yeah,
I'm just not super confident. I don't have a whole lot of confidence still going forward with MVS. I know he's still emerging in this role, but that passing attack from the Packers I guess it can only go up from here, but still, like, I don't know how long it is until it's going to get better.
And it's super impressive for both these teams because Levi lost Antonio Brown, JP lost Hunter Henry, both pretty early draft picks, and they're still top tier.
Yeah, remember we goofed on JP a little bit for picking his tight end super early, and then just ended up missed on one hit on the other one, but hey, I didn't even think about Hunter Henry talking about his team.
I mean, his late round wide receiver picks and Larry Fitzgerald and DK Metcalf have been super amazing.
Super great.
So then the next tier I have is the A tier, not the S tier. Are me. I have Jake Logan here.
Yep.
And Frankie Redfern.
Hey, that's me.
Yeah. We're both, there's no podcast bias in these rankings, I assure you. Looking through my notes on each of these teams, for my team, I'd say easily the best starting running back duo in this league with Alvin Kamara and Dalvin Cook. Hard to get better than that.
No question.
And then my wide receivers have a lot of overperformers so far early in the season with Hollywood and Terry McLaurin. Cooper Kupp has been just picking it up as the season's been going on, and once Tyreek comes back, I think I'll have a pretty solid wide receiver core. But then on the periphery, O.J. Howard, major bum, great NFL tight end, but not the... Dude, have you seen his blocks, dude?
I've seen his blocks.
Fantastic. But not doing great for my team. So I feel like there's a lot to look up for my team going forward, but not nearly as good as JP or Levi.
Mm-hmm.
Jake Logan, after picking up Pat's defense, honestly, is what put him over the top for this, in my opinion, because they scored 35 points one week. Jesus. And then with Sony underperforming, his running backs haven't been the most solid, but Leonard Fournette and Zeke Elliott have both, been consistent performers for his team, even if Leonard Fournette's not the most talented running back. And his wide receiver core, if we look over it real quick, of Amari Cooper, who's been really good. DJ Moore hasn't always been the most consistently targeted, but has always put up a decent amount of points.
Yeah.
And then John Ross really hurt him last week, but has been good otherwise. Is, not spectacular, but it's a solid wide receiver core. And looking at your team, it's kind of surprising to me. We kind of talked about this before the pod, but what we thought about your team was that it was a super strong wide receiver core at the beginning of the season, with some unknowns otherwise, with like Lamar Jackson, Mark Andrews, and like what Phillip Lindsay will be this season. But it's kind of flipped now, with your wide receiver core not necessarily being all that it was billed to be, with OBJ underperforming, with Baker underperforming, Juju losing his quarterback, Robert Woods kind of being just lost in the mix with those Rams wide receivers. But then Mark Andrews and Lamar Jackson have just been able to carry super hard when they go off weeks. So that's why you're in the A tier.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think?
From my own team?
Any of them.
Okay. I just go right into mine then, because we have the same high tier. Last year was top for me, high for this one. I have Jake as the top of this tier, and because I think like he has such an amazing floor each week with the Patriots defense. And then just he has these super high upside guys like John Ross and like Disley, and now that he lost his competition or any competition he might have had for the tight end job, he's only been getting like 55% of snaps so far, or 59 week 2, but around that 50-60 range. And now that Nick Fournette's gone, I feel like it's just going to continue to go up, and he gets Arizona this week, so that's looking really good. And then otherwise with Jake's team, like my only like super big question mark is Leonard Fournette, because he sucks. He's just not a good football player. But other than that, I just think he's a pretty solid roster. I guess also Sony Michel. But yeah, I don't know. Like, I guess like Jake could afford to have some more depth at running back, and that's kind of what's probably holding him back right now. For me, from putting him in like a top tier. But I definitely a strong roster. And then next in that tier, I have you and I. I'm not sure which one I'd probably put higher. I definitely put you higher, just because like your team becomes scary when Tyreek comes back. Until then, I think we're a little bit more even. But like Kamara and Cook, obviously Cook has some like injury history in his career, and he has the Chicago Bears this week. But he's been super solid. He's a running back that you, me, and Dylan all really wanted preseason. That's been true so far. What can you say about Kamara?
Yeah.
Everything else I agree pretty much with what you said on your team here. I think you said that Marquise Brown is an overperformer, which I do agree, but I still think like even if he has overperformed, like his snap count is just going to continue to go up, and his target share is just going to continue to go up. And that's what they've shown they want to do, and they're going to continue to do. I think it's really great. Terry McLaurin so far looks like, well, I guess I wrote this in my notes for the weekly preview, but I'll just say it now. Terry McLaurin looks like the best rookie wide receiver of this class so far, just talent-wise, and like usage is getting it pretty well, because I need it there in Washington. Mm-hmm. And then Cooper Kupp's becoming like the best passing option for Jared Goff, which he pretty much was last season before he got injured too, so it shouldn't be too much of a shocker. He just came back from his ACL tear way stronger than I think a lot of people, at least myself, like predicted. So yeah, super solid roster. I mean, your peripherals, which I guess like peripherals I consider like kicker, defense, tight end, quarterback. The streamable positions, obviously bum ass at tight ends. Ravens defense has been pretty good. I don't think they've been spectacular though.
I mean, I just picked them up for this week.
Yeah, they've been like actually they were the 21st for defense. That's pretty bad. And then your kickers, whatever, who cares? Wentz, I don't super love this week, but he's been a quarterback one every week so far this season. So we'll see how he does this week. But I mean, he's not like it's not like you're sticking by him necessarily. And then my team, I agree with some of the stuff you said. I was pretty confident in Lamar Jackson going into this season, which is what's pushed me over to picking up or drafting Mark Andrews. Obviously, I didn't expect him to be the tight end 1, or he's now the tight end 2 through 3 weeks. But I expected Lamar to be really good. my like conservative predictions going into the season for my receiver core was that Juju was a fringe wide receiver 1-2, Robert Woods was a fringe wide receiver 1-2, both wide receiver 1 upside, and I thought that OBJ would be a pretty solid wide receiver 1. Baker has sucked. I don't know what the play calling is going on in Cleveland, but you said all my receivers are pretty much underperforming. Yet you said that Robert Woods is getting lost in the mix, which I don't necessarily think is that true. Yes, I think that kind of happens in the last game, but especially in the first 2 games, he got a lot of targets. Just a lot of them, we talked about this in the last podcast, a lot of them were taken back on penalty. I still think he is a very strong option. And then I guess my only other like problems with my team is I don't really have anyone I like on my bench to start a running back for bye weeks or like for anything. Well, I don't really like any of the running backs on my team in general. I mean, I was really hoping for a Devontae breakout this last week, and he still went 16 attempts for 88 yards. Just he hasn't found the end zone yet, and I feel like that's gonna really push him over. Phil Lindsay had a great week, but who the hell knows when you can start him or not start him. But yeah, so I mean, and like I think I'm like the just going by results oriented here. I think I'm like the 4th or 5th. I think I'm the 4th highest scoring team in the league so far. So even though a lot of my players are underperforming, my team is still putting up a lot of points. So that's kind of why I have myself there. Yeah, I guess I'll just keep talking as I go into the mid tier. So we have this mid tier here, and my mid tier here has 6 teams in it. So I'm gonna go through them a little quickly here. Lassie, Greg, Logan, Devin, Tyler, and Justin, congratulations! You are all in the mid tier. You all have things I like and don't like. I'll also just do like 2 or so points for each person really quickly here. So Lassie's team, I have as a team at the top of the mid tier because when Melvin Gordon comes back, this team could get really good all of a sudden. Because then you have the tandem of Aaron Jones and Melvin Gordon. It could be good. I mean, Aaron Jones has been talking about getting him less snaps, which we definitely saw this week with only 39% of his snap count, which is rough, but he still found the end zone to save this week. So I still like Aaron Jones' talent. I'm just not sure the opportunity is going to be there. But Melvin Gordon coming back makes it seem a lot better. Mike Evans, as some of you at least know, I really tried really hard to buy him this last week, and then we saw what happened, what he can do on any given week there. And then the the wide receiver stack for the New England Patriots for him and Gordon and Edelman is really solid tier 2. But yeah, that's Lassie has definitely probably the most potential of this like tier to move up to the high tier, I would say. Greg's team has some solid pieces, but I feel like his team just overall has been like super underperforming. So I think he has potential too. I think this could be a pretty good week for Joe Mixon. I don't even know what to make of Chris Carson at this point. I know that Pete says that he wants to keep giving him like the snaps he needs, but I'm pretty sure it was under 40 or it was under 45% snap count after another fumble this week, which is just spelling doom for my dynasty team too, which is frustrating. And then like with Greg's receiving core, I think Kellen Ridley had a good week, he had a good week 2, a terrible week this last week, and in Tyler Boyd, we'll have to see how that offense. I mean, AJ Green will be coming back eventually, so we'll have to see how that affects it too. But like with Greg's team, I just thought there isn't. I feel like Greg's team should be doing a lot better than it has been doing, but it hasn't done anything yet. So I guess I'm putting him here to say show me something. Logan's team also a good contender to move up. Been underperforming as well with Josh Jacobs with his illness through 3 weeks now, and a hip injury I think last week he's still dealing with. Devontae Adams is only a matter of time before he blows up again. I'm pretty sure, and this could be the week finally. We'll see if it's tonight actually. And then some otherwise like the Wayne Gallman acquisition, like we said, he's done pretty well in the waiver so far with Demarcus Robinson, Wayne Gallman. And Lev Bell's been solid through the few weeks. He hasn't been the Lev Bell of old, but he doesn't have doesn't have Mike Munchak or Keith Butt or Randy Fitchner or any like the Steelers offensive minds that he's had for years. But even then, he's still getting the volume. So I still like Logan's team. And the pickup of Chris Herndon is going to be interesting, considering that the tight ends on the Jets offense get a lot of snaps and a lot of looks in through the passing game. So a solid enough team, but I think probably just a little bit behind, especially when you're looking to start Shady, who's been okay, but not amazing. And then Vance's injury makes things interesting here. Devin's team is up next. Who has been pretty good as well. I think he's one of our few 2-win teams. Yeah. He's, as the Devin classic, he has his carry on, he has his Gurley, and he has his Eagles receivers. The Eagles receivers have not been amazing. They've had some good games, but nowhere near the consistency you necessarily want. Aguilar, as we all know, can't catch a pass or a baby to save his life, apparently. Marlon Mack looked pretty dang good this last week, with coming out of an injury, which is really good for him. Kenny Galladay, as we said last week, has emerged as the best wide receiver on that team, so that's great for him. I've said enough about Todd Gurley and the lack of his usage, especially as the stats coming out this week of the Rams running backs only seeing 6% of the team's passing reception total, I guess, which is the lowest in the league by far. So you really like to see them try to fix that. I feel like Sean McVay said something about earlier this week about wanting to get him more involved through the air. Maybe I'm making that up.
They said that they wanted to get Todd Gurley 25 touches per game.
That's what it was. Okay, so
I'll believe that when I see it.
Yeah, and he had a healthy knee going to the Super Bowl too. I'm pretty sure. Yeah. But I don't know. I'll talk more about. I have Devin's matchup later this week, so I'll talk a little bit more about his team then. But a solid enough roster, but nothing that's really breaking. I feel like this team doesn't have the upside for a lot of these players that it needs to be considered like a top tier team. Tyler's team is up next here, with the T.J. Hawkinson really just completely fading away so far in the last 2 weeks after the week 1 performance. He hasn't even put up 2 points in the last 2 weeks combined. That gives a pretty good blow. Montgomery hasn't done much of what we've expected him going into the season. Chubb has a really bad offensive line. Julio's been solid, and Ty is injured. So there's just some pretty bad issues here. Picking up Peyton Barber too. I don't know what he's gonna do with him. Does have a lot of question marks. I mean, Tyler Williams is probably one of the more solid players on his team, someone I also try to require. But yeah, some pretty glaring issues, I think, on Tyler's team. But, I mean, definitely, he's in the mid-tier, not the low tier for a reason. Last team here in the mid-tier is Justin. Justin's had a solid enough team so far this season, too. And you can't go wrong with CMC. Like I said earlier with Derrick Henry, Mark Ingram even more so has way more touchdowns than he should when you compare it to his amount of touches he's gotten. So I'd like to see that regression this week. Yeah, that sounds great. Brandon Cooks has been a solid wide receiver for the Rams offense we've talked about quite a bit. Jarvis Landry, I believe, has been like a wide receiver 3, or not even a wide receiver 3, 58 in PPR. Jesus Christ. About what I expected.
About what Robert Woods is this season.
32.
That's Brandon Cooks.
Well, Robert Woods. Oh, yeah, Robert. Oh, well, That's just rude. I'm not even talking about my team. Do you know how many passes he got called back week 2? Yeah, I mean, on Justin's... Yeah, on Justin's team, otherwise, like, he's... When you have to flex Cole Beasley, I don't love your team. I'm just gonna probably leave it at that. Damian Williams coming back from injury will make this team a good bit better, I think, because he can probably play 3 running backs then. But a big detriment to this team is if I don't know. I feel like there is going to be a week eventually where this kicker flex does not work, and it's coming soon. I feel like
it hasn't come yet.
It probably won't come this week, but I think it is coming soon. It's really going to bite him in the butt. But anyways, you're up now.
So, something interesting here. Your top teams of this mid-tier were Lassie and Greg. And those are the 2 teams you had in your mid-tier that I have in the bottom tier.
Yeah.
So my mid-tier is Devin, Justin, Tyler, and Logan in that order. So Devin, what I have to say is he's got some solid performances from players that aren't necessarily like big-name guys, like Nelson Aguilar. Marlon Mack, wasn't super highly coveted coming into the season, but he's been super productive. And then, like, I don't know, other people have been good. And then Russell Wilson, no one expected him to put up 40 points last week.
Right.
And he's quarterback 4 on the season. Go him.
Yeah, he did the magical, like, fancy thing of where he had a good game and then also had amazing garbage time.
It's a win-win.
Yeah.
Yeah, and, Devin's, top rate or in the record with this division, along there with Justin, who's next.
Yeah.
Justin, I have him as the worst wide receiver core in the league, with Brandon Cooks, Jarvis Landry, and whoever that white guy is, Cole Beasley. And I feel like that's pretty clear, to be honest.
Wait, Cam, did you consider that he has Corey Davis as well?
I don't know, but I would bet if we click on Corey Davis, he'd be lower than 70th ranked.
88.
Yeah, Jesus Christ.
88.
That's a win for the do not draft list, if I say so myself.
Woof. Finally a win.
However, I do have Justin as tied for the best running back core in the league with me, just because his starters aren't necessarily as good, but he's got more depth with that Kansas City running back. He's got basically all the ones that you actually want besides Shady.
Yeah.
And after Mark Ingram's explosion this last week, there's a lot to feel good, and Christian McCaffrey, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
And then he's got good tight ends. He has easily the best kicker core in the league, putting him over the top. And then next we have Tyler. Tyler's team right now, for me, is being held up by his wide receiver core and his kicker core. It's rough with T.Y. Hilton getting hurt, but he's been super productive so far this season, scoring a touchdown every game in week 1, just like Julio Jones. He's got 4 touchdowns on the season too. That's ridiculous.
Does he really?
Yeah.
That's insane.
Who expected that? Is he the wide receiver? No, he's not. He's wide receiver 2 behind Keenan Allen. Yeah, so, I feel like it's pretty... And then Tyrell Williams being your wide receiver 3 is super solid. Mecole Hardman will hopefully be able to hold the fort down until A.J. Green comes back, if he even exists on this planet anymore. We'll find out. I am hoping for T.J. Hawkinson, bounce back just purely based off of being a Lions fan, and I think it can come. And then his running backs haven't been performing the best, but they aren't a detriment to his team for sure. And then the last team of this mid-tier that I have is Logan. Logan I have as having a really good quarterback with Dak Prescott, and then his other part of his team that I think is really good is his running back core. Lev Bell, obviously the offense hasn't been nearly as good as it was with Pittsburgh, but he's been basically that entire offense, and they need him to be.
Yeah.
And then Josh Jacobs and LaShawn McCoy are both good starters for pretty much any team in this league. Devontae Adams has been underperforming, but, we'll see if that keeps going on. And he's got some good wide receiver pickups, like we said, with DJ Chark and Demarcus Robinson.
Yeah.
Definitely not the most solid or consistent team in this mid-tier, which is why he's on the bottom of it. But he's been working to make it better, so he's right there. Mm-hmm. And then onto the bottom tier, I have Lassie as the 10th ranked team in this league. And if I'm going to say why, because you had him as very solid, mid-tier. I had his quarterback as below average for this league because, Kyler Murray has not been the kind of rushing, ridiculously productive player that we've been expecting.
Mm-hmm.
Hasn't been throwing it deep or anything. And then I guess I'm just not as excited about his wide receiver core as you are. Mike Evans obviously went ridiculous this last week, but wasn't very startable the weeks before that. So we'll see.
Well, he's been sick. Okay.
He's still playing on the field.
Yeah.
Didn't catch half his targets in the first couple of games. He's still like a 50% receiving. Jeez. But, because I just don't know if he'll keep getting the kind of production that he will get, because Chris Godwin, went super far down this last game.
Yeah.
I think it'll kind of balance out. And then I just don't know about those wide receivers for the Patriots, just what will happen. They've been getting kind of injured and banged up, and the Patriots don't even need to pass to win games. But his tight end spot has been super solid with Delaney Walker and Greg Olsen. So honestly, Lassie should probably move up in these rankings, but this is where he is right now.
Yeah, I will say the one thing that I like about last team is Emmanuel Sanders. He had a bad last week, but he's been he's looked so good just watching him, and so I think that's what helps me boost some confidence in his receiving core.
Yeah, and I guess I didn't really consider a lot what would happen with Melvin Gordon and Saquon coming back. But we just don't really know what Melvin Gordon will look like when he comes back, and Saquon don't know how long he'll be out.
Yeah, was it 4 to 6 weeks minimum? Yeah.
Yeah, they were all saying 4 to 8.
6 to 8. Yeah, jeez.
They don't know. Yeah.
They could be out basically out for the season for fantasy.
Yeah. But for Dylan, I have him as the 11th ranked team.
Congratulations, Dylan. You're not 12th on Cam's rankings.
Yeah, his quarterback has the worst grade in the league for me at a 3. That will probably come up after this week, but we just don't know, or we haven't seen him actually get a good quarterback performance, so I think he deserves to have that worst grade so far. He has solid wide receivers for me, looking at them. And DeAndre Hopkins, obviously top flight wide receiver, hasn't been performing as to what you'd expect these last couple weeks, but you can't hold him down for that long. Adam Thielen's been, talented, but not used a lot, scoring a lot of touchdowns to keep his totals up.
Mm-hmm.
And then Christian Kirk has been kind of the opposite, where, he's not the most talented and he's not scoring the most, but he's been getting targeted like a mother. And then Curtis Samuel, he's hype.
Yeah. 30 targets in 3 games for Christian Kirk.
Yeah, that's ridiculous. Dylan needs to pick up a kicker and drop someone, so we'll see what happens. And he's got good tight ends, obviously George Kittle, Darren Waller. Very solid. Which is why he is above Greg. I have as the worst team in the league. And why is because I think his wide receivers, running backs, and tight ends are all below average. And, no one else on his team is very, scary. Matt Ryan is a good but not exciting tight end. Quarterback. And then, kicker and defense. He's got a good defense, but not, crazy good. They're only the number 5 ranked defense on the league in the league.
Yeah.
But just to kind of argue, because you had Greg as the top mid tier.
I had last year's
but second.
Yeah.
But Tyler Boyd and Calvin Ridley, I would say are the worst starting duo of wide receivers besides maybe Justin in the league. Especially if you consider the third one of Mohamed Sanu.
Yeah, I didn't even mention Sanu, but yeah, it's rough. I think I think you and I have pretty similar opinions on Greg's team. I'm just expecting it to bounce back way more than you are. I'm expecting Joe Mixon and hopefully Chris Carson to get a lot better. I'm expecting Tyler Boyd to continue to have a role in the offense and Calvin Ridley to be. I guess I expected Calvin Ridley to have more touchdowns, but I guess Julio's been taking those away. And I think Miles Sanders at some point will start actually being a weekly producer. But
it'd be nice if he had talent.
Did you watch his college tape?
No, but I've watched him play in the NFL.
Yeah, he has it's been rough. But yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Did I cut you off? Sorry.
No,
okay,
you're fine. Just get good, Greg.
Get good, Greg. And then the only team left in my for my rankings here, the lowest tier, all by himself, is Dylan. Sorry, Dylan. You are the lowest scorer on the season, only a couple points behind Greg, though. But yeah, I mean, I feel I don't want to beat it into the ground too harsh here. Quarterback situation is rough. Danny Dimes could be really good this week, but you're starting Aaron Rodgers, so I don't.
Against Philly, though.
Yeah, and I feel I just want the upside if I'm Dylan. I just really want to perform, but he could win this week even with such an average quarterback performance. James Conner has been facing 8 in the box every single play. It's been really rough for him. Carlos Hyde is your second starter. Woof. Adam Thielen hasn't really been getting that much production so far. It gets kind of bailed out with the end around touchdown this week to make it this last week make it a good week. Darren Waller has been great. Curtis Samuel underperforming mostly as a result of Cam Newton. Well, actually, Curtis Samuel's been okay, I guess. I didn't realize he's been okay. Well, number 40, whereas you were not great, not amazing. But Cam Newton injury has more to do with that than anything. And then I think we've talked about his bench, just especially with Melvin coming back, I don't see how really Justin Jackson's role in the offense when he's back at all. Jamal Williams, I know he's getting more snaps, but I would never feel confident starting him. Tony Pollard is, a very, very valuable asset if Zeke is injured. It's a big if. Same thing with Madison and Dalvin Cook, which is, I guess, somewhat more likely. Kittle's been underperforming quite a bit so far, and Goodwin hasn't been doing that great either. And then he has Tevin Coleman in his IR, who just doesn't even look good anymore.
Would you say that Dylan's team is set up well to make a run in consolation?
Yeah, I would say that.
Mm-hmm.
I would say that. Yeah. You only need a late season injury to make a good run, but I'm just afraid those injuries are going to come too late for his actual playoff hopes.
Yeah, he's gonna need to win a game first, man.
He has a good chance this week, which we'll get to. But yeah, those were our power rankings. We were pretty consistent, so I think our consensus is not that.
Yeah. Just a note on risers and fallers for mine. JP went from the 4th tier from my old power rankings to the 1st tier. Way to go, man. And Jake Logan went from the 4th tier to the 2nd tier. And then fallers, both of 2 people that were in the top tier last time, Lassie and Dylan, fell to the 4th tier for me.
And risers and fallers for me, I don't really have any risers because everyone is within one tier of where I placed them. Besides for Dylan, who was our faller, who went from top tier to bottom tier. I think Dylan might have been like top 3. I might have thought he was the best team in the league to start preseason, and now he's number 12.
Remember when Dylan won the league last year?
I do remember that.
I'm sure Dylan remembers because that's all he has to think about now.
Alrighty, those are our power rankings, and let's get into a weekly preview here. Alrighty, now first matchup this week we're looking at is Jake versus Greg here. Let's start off here on Jake's side of the ball. I mentioned a little bit earlier with Disley and the Steelers signing Nick Vannett, or I guess trading for Nick Vannett. So Disley should get even more snaps, I believe. I would think so, considering they're basically splitting snaps beforehand. And he has Arizona this week, so I think it's a pretty good look for him. And then we're looking here to his Cowboys stack in Zeke and Amari. They get to play in New Orleans this week, who's giving up over, about 340 yards a game, which is pretty standard, maybe a little bit higher on the higher end. More through the air than on the ground, so it should be a good game for Amari. Yeah, and then other than that, my other note for Jake's team here is that I think we're all kind of looking for a good week from Leonard Fournette this week. Obviously, he put up 12.2 points, but I was off of basically a fluke run at the end of the game. So I'd like to see this week against a Denver defense that is beatable on the ground if he can actually have some actual production. And we'll have to see what it's like. Well, I think this week we'll be able to see what his actual value is in fantasy for this season. I'm looking over to Greg's side. Mentioned it earlier a bit as well, but I'm wondering if Carson's going to continue to lose snaps with it. I think now he's fumbled the ball 3 or 4 times, maybe. His snap count went from 77 to 54 to 44 this last week, 2.5 points last week. Really off, but he has Arizona this week. Should be a positive game script for them, I do believe. Miles Sanders mentioned earlier. I think this could be the breakout game. Hopefully this week, I'm hoping for it for Greg's sake and for Miles Sanders' sake. And it should be a competitive game tonight, and Green Bay's been giving up some stuff off the ground as well. So I'll look to see that for Greg. If it doesn't perform this week, I might bump him down in my rankings. And then we have Boyd. His other big thing here is he has Boyd and Mixon stack against the Steelers defense, which has been giving up a ton of yards and a fair amount of points so far this season. But they are much improved over the last few weeks with additions of Minkah Fitzpatrick and things like that. So I like to see how that affects the passing game. And the running game for the Steelers has been solid. The only problem is they've been on the field so much that they get tired and then they get chewed up late in the game, which could happen again this week against Cincinnati on Monday Night Football. We will see about that.
Primetime Bengals are always something to be scared of.
That is true, but the game is in Heinz Field, so I'm not super worried.
Oh no, I was saying primetime Bengals isn't. They suck.
Yeah.
Jeez. Yeah. Go Alphas. Actually, wait. Don't I want them to lose, so I get to say it first? I don't care. I'm gonna win anyway. Anywho, our next matchup this week we have Tyler versus Dylan. 2 teams that are looking to, get a win since the first week for Tyler and just in general for Dylan. Not great. For Tyler though, he's got some rough running back matchups this week. He's got David Montgomery versus Minnesota and Nick Chubb versus Baltimore. Not ideal for him. And then he's got a lot running for his team on that Kansas City-Detroit game, which should be a pretty high-scoring game, I think. So not a bad idea. He's got Stafford and Hawkinson on the Detroit side and Mecole Hardman for Kansas City. So he's got to hope that game, that maybe he can get a touchdown or 2 to TJ Hawkinson, get that 10-point stack. And it's really rough for him with T.Y. Hilton. Right now is doubtful. If he could play versus Oakland, that'd be really good for Tyler. But if not, if I were him, I'd probably sub in Will Lutz as my backup. instead of, I don't know, Peyton Barber or Duke Johnson.
Yeah.
Because, kicker stack has been working for Justin. Why not Tyler? We'll see what happens. On Dylan's side, right now, he is favored, hoping to get his first win of the season. Aaron Rodgers versus Philadelphia. We already touched on that versus Daniel Jones. We'll at least be able to see early in the week for Dylan whether or not that should be a good start for him.
Yep.
He's starting. All right, if you were Dylan, would you start Carlos Hyde this week or Justin Jackson? Yes, Justin Jackson has been bad, but the last 2 weeks at least, the backup running back versus Miami has been very usable.
Yeah.
Like Tony Pollard outscored Zeke last week just because they didn't need him.
Carlos Hyde versus Carolina. Yeah, Well, I guess I think jeez, I don't know. 5 attempts last week, huh?
But
4 targets to the air.
Something to think about.
Yeah, I don't. What do you have an opinion on that?
I would probably start Justin Jackson.
I'm kind of leaning Hyde, honestly.
Yeah. Well, I mean, even with being a backup, Justin Jackson scored 2 and 4 points less than Carlos Hyde the last 2 weeks, and now he plays against Miami. So I feel like there's a lot of touchdown upside for him.
Yeah,
we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I guess so.
Who am I to give our former champion lineup advice? Anywho, Dylan is definitely favored in this matchup. He's got, Christian Kirk and Curtis Samuel in his flex spots, but he's favored right now without even having a kicker in his league.
Yeah.
In his lineup. But he's gonna lose anyway because Dylan is fallen to 0-4. Rotlack will lose outside the division as much as Dylan thinks it's impossible, and that's my upset of the week.
I'm upset. I'm upset.
Louder!
I'm upset.
Louder!
I'm upset.
Say it louder!
I'm upset.
All right. For Dylan's sanity, and I'm kind of hoping for a win. Same time, I kind of hope he loses too.
Always.
Alrighty. And then I got the next matchup here: Cam versus JP. Hey, that's you.
Oh boy.
I said quite a bit about your team earlier. For this week, in terms of Wentz versus Green Bay, we'll have to see how that goes this week. It should be positive. It should be competitive, is what I guess I would think, which is generally good for quarterbacks.
I'm just nervous on the road on Thursday Night Football with banged up.
It's in a short week, yeah.
Yeah.
Dalvin Cook versus the Bears front is never something you want to necessarily be going up against.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder. Okay, I guess I probably look how he did last season against them because they entered in division. Chicago negative -0.5 point and 8 points in week 17. Not great.
Yeah, but now he's running back 1 on the season.
Yeah. Yeah. And then I mentioned earlier about Terry McLaurin being probably the best wide receiver so far in the rookie class. He gets to go up against the Giants this week, which should be another great game for him. So I'm liking some of the stuff on your side this week and not liking some of the other stuff for sure. On both sides, on JP's side, I think Evan Ingram should continue to have a... Sorry, my dog did something.
Yeah, that's fine.
I think Evan Ingram should continue to be a very highly targeted asset on the Giants' passing game so far. This week, against Washington. Especially now that we have Danny Dimes at the helm. Keenan Allen versus Miami is someone that I wish I could play every single week on my fantasy roster. And on Greg's side, also on this side here we got Justin Lockett, user. Also on JP's side here, Tyler Lockett versus Arizona should be a positive game here. I'd like to see what James White can do against Buffalo. James White's specialty is basically getting his carries through the air. So I'd like to see how that affects it here. But he has a good amount going in the Arizona versus Seattle game here. So we'll have to see how that works out for him. I don't know. I'm sure. Do you have any take about your team this week?
I am fully prepared to lose this week.
Yeah.
Patrick Mahomes, Keenan Allen versus Miami, Evan Ingram versus Washington, Tyler Lockett versus Arizona, Cowboys defense versus Teddy Bridgewater. I need Mike Williams to take all of Keenan Allen's points if I want any hope, and OJ Howard to not be just the most pathetic person ever. We'll see if that happens, but I'm not feeling confident.
Alrighty.
Anyways, moving on to the next matchup where I'm less sad. We have Levi versus Logan. Levi's projected for 135 points. Oh lord, and Logan's projected for 112 because the Jets are on bye. Not great for him, Bob. But what I wrote down is with Levi, both his running backs have definitely, not been what they were at the very beginning of the season. Henry falling back to earth, and Eckler getting his last hurrah with Melvin Gordon out versus Miami, which, looks good for him on paper, but maybe Justin Jackson gets all the work because they don't need him.
Yeah.
But I guess they don't really need to keep Eckler healthy because they get Melvin Gordon back. No idea. Chris Godwin, he's looking to bounce back this week after a pretty down week last week, but I'm not sure if that comes versus that Rams defense. And then with Levi, he obviously has the Kansas City options of Sammy Watkins and Travis Kelce, which can go off crazy, like we talked about with Patrick Mahomes and stuff. But Logan, on the other hand, has other Kansas City options. They're not nearly as good as Kelce or Watkins because he has Shady and Demarcus Robinson.
Mm-hmm.
But if those points swing away from Levi's players towards Logan players, I could see that being pretty significant for this matchup. He'll probably pretty much need that to happen if he wants to beat Levi. And then there's another situation like that with Levi having Devontae Adams or Levi having Marquez Valdez-Scantling and Logan having Devontae Adams. If Devontae goes off, leaving fewer points for MVS, that would be really significant in this matchup too.
Right.
It's going to take some luck for Logan if he wants to get this win off, but there is a path for it. But I feel like Levi's, definitely a favorite in this matchup.
Yeah, I'd say so for sure. Alrighty, and then checking out this matchup here, we have Devin versus Lassie. Devin currently projected to win 81% of the way there. Jesus. Devin has an interesting decision this week at quarterback when he has Philip Rivers against Miami and Russell Wilson against Arizona. I feel like you can't go wrong with either, but it will be interesting to see what he ends up deciding. Right now he's got Russell Wilson, which is probably the safer pick. But
honestly, probably safer and more upside.
Yeah, I guess so. I don't know.
Maybe not safer because they could just get up super early and then run the ball out.
I mean, you say that for both of them, though.
That's fair.
So, yeah, I don't know.
Good idea.
He has another interesting start sit here with his Eagles receivers, of course, Earth notwithstanding, but Nelson Aguilar he has starting, and he has Alshon Jeffrey, who is practicing this full week on his bench. They play tonight, so maybe he's waiting for a last-second swap, or maybe really just feeling Aguilar this week. I don't get it. But I'm not Devin, so he can do what he wants with this team.
Maybe he's trying to show Aguilar some confidence. That way he won't drop the ball and lose the game for him again like he did against Detroit.
You think Devin's like manifesting?
Devin's a manifester. We all know that.
Which we want to see this week if this is a breakout week for Kerryon. He's been solid enough so far this season. On the edge of that running back at the end of the running back twos here.
Wide receiver. Oh wait, carry on.
Yeah,
sorry, I thought that was Kenny Galladay.
No, yeah.
Too many lines on your team, Devin.
With K names. Let's see if he has a breakout this week against K. I'm not necessarily calling for it, but I'm just saying it's definitely in the realm of possibility. Kenny Galladay as well should have a good week against that Kansas City defense. So I'm definitely like some stuff on Devin's side of the matchup here. You can see why he's favored by quite a bit. On Lassie's side of the ball, he's starting Ronald Jones, which is maybe his only good matchup of the week.
Jeez.
It's Omega Lol. That's what my notes say. Although he does have, and he had then looking at the rest of his team, he has the New England receiver stack against the Buffalo Bills in Buffalo. Not great. And then otherwise, he has he has Mike Evans versus the Rams, I believe, which I had the Tampa Bay defense going this week, and they're projected for negative 0.8 points. Not exactly a positive game script, so they could get some garbage time here. But the Rams defense has looked pretty dang solid so far this season, so I'm not sure how about that.
I could easily see that defensive line making Jameis just I have no idea what to do.
Yeah, and then my last note for Lassie's side of the ball is good luck, Lassie. You're gonna need it.
Lots of projected blowouts this week.
Yeah, that is true. Yeah.
But for one game that is not, I guess this is also kind of a projected blowout, our matchup of the week.
I mean, it's only 7 points.
Yeah, I guess, why do I look at the
bar.
win percentage? 'Cause
Yeah.
it means nothing. But our Commissioner Bowl.
This town ain't big enough for the two of us.
Get excited.
I'm
The
pumped.
one to rule them all. Frankie versus Justin. So just looking at over on Frankie's side, there's no matchups for your team that I'm necessarily like super hyped with, besides maybe Sterling Shepard versus Washington. But there's nothing that's super concerning for me besides maybe your running backs, because Tennessee was able to shut down Leonard Fournette pretty well last game, and that's who Devonta Freeman's going up against. And then Jacksonville was able to shut down Derrick Henry pretty well last game, and that's who Phillip Lindsay's going against. But, those aren't the most talented running backs, so we'll see what happens.
Yep.
After that, you got to hope for a high-scoring game here between Baltimore and Cleveland, because you got Lamar Jackson and Mark Andrews, obviously, and then they're going up against Odell Beckham Jr. If that turns into a shootout, that would help you a lot.
Yeah.
And then, just hope it doesn't go to Jarvis Landry instead. However, if it's not a shootout and the Baltimore team is able to get up early on Cleveland, you could easily see them just transitioning to Justin's running back and the bane of your existence, Mark Ingram.
Mm-hmm.
Probably the reason that you scored so few points last week is because Mark Ingram had 3 rushing touchdowns.
From the one.
Oh, Lord.
Yeah. It's so frustrating. Lamar would just bust the entire team down. They're just bang, 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 pass after pass, and then just get to the 1 yard line and be like, oh, we're just going to hand it off to Mark. Sick.
Yeah, so other than for Justin's team, he's had Beasley on his team, who has been really solid, actually, these last couple weeks, scoring low double digits weeks 2 and 3. But now he goes up against the Patriots defense. I don't know if I would start him against Patriots. He's got to hope that maybe he can get some clarity in his Kansas City running backs. Maybe throw one of those in instead, or maybe flex Eric Ebron against Oakland. Also a good matchup. But, Justin knows what he's doing. Obviously, he's got those simulations running.
Mm-hmm.
And Justin finally got that kicker flex going, which, has scored in his flex spot pretty solid these last couple weeks. Only one time has one of his kickers scored below 9 points. I feel good about that. Right now, Frankie, you're definitely favored, and I feel like that makes a lot of sense. There's no point where I'd super... Actually, Justin's got definitely the advantage in running backs, but then he's starting Jarvis Landry and Cole Beasley.
Mm-hmm.
So, I think it'll be a good game. When's the last time that you have someone playing? Oh, Monday night, Juju.
Yeah.
It might come down to that. That would be exciting.
Yeah, I mean, we have quite a bit going on these AFC North divisional games, which is an interesting thing because generally speaking in the NFL, in division games are lower scoring because the teams just know each other better. It's especially true in the AFC North, but these are four I guess 3 wildly different AFC North teams than we've seen over the last decade.
Which one's not wildly different?
The Bengals.
I mean, they have a new coach, and it's super different, scheme and everything.
Yeah.
I think they're all different.
I would say they're all different, but not wildly different.
Okay.
And maybe you could say the Steelers aren't wildly different either, but the Browns and the Ravens certainly are. It's just a new era for the AFC North. I think right now, or at least emerging into one, with Baker and everything like that. So I do think those games will probably not be as low scoring as they typically are. I mean, it's hard to say that Christian McCaffrey is going to have a great game, or Goff at home against Tampa Bay should be a good game for him as well. So I get that I am favored here, and if I was a betting man, I'd probably pick myself, but I definitely think it's closer than the win bar would say. Alrighty, and I think it's everything. We didn't mention that the Tri-Arch House is up for grabs.
Oh, is it now?
I can't believe I forgot. that Dylan versus Tyler is the first Try Hard Chalice game of the entire season.
I have to work harder. I want to excel. I want to be the greatest. So I'll keep on trying until I've got what it takes to do that.
And possibly the first time it can change hands since... Did it change at all last
It did
season?
not change at all last season.
Jeez. Yep, let's go, Tyler. Another reason for the
You
upset.
call him for the upset. Yeah,
Because Tyler, he sees that chalice. He's eyeballing it. His players know they're fighting for it.
Uh-huh.
And they're going to put in that extra effort.
I think that's how that works.
I think Dylan's team has taken it for granted for too long. They don't even care about it. They don't have that fire.
No, the fire.
The chalice.
I think it's a trap game for his players. Alrighty, let's get into the mailbag here. We have one question, and it's from Dylan, and he says, in response to Cam saying my team would have been much better if I kept Mahomes, who made the best and worst keeper picks? Dylan also writes, I know I made the worst. Could have had Cook and Mahomes. Kept bum-ass number 1 and Thielen instead. So you have some notes here. Who do you think had the best and the worst keepers?
Yeah, do you mind pulling up the old spreadsheet?
I will put it up right here.
Yeah, so some of the very good keeper selections. JP obviously stands out, getting Lockett, who's been basically a wide receiver 1 in the 7th round, and G Jackson in the 12th, who was really good week 1, injured now, but I mean, in the 12th round, you can handle that injury and hope he gets super productive when he comes back.
Yeah, JP's my number 1, I think, for sure.
But right up there for me is Levi.
Yeah.
Getting Kelsey in the 3rd, obviously, is super valuable with how good he's been. And then Godwin, who's also basically been a wide receiver 1, not so much this last week, in the 6th round is super solid, too.
Yeah. Sorry.
No, you go ahead.
Oh, so I agree with the best ones. If we're looking at like more of like the worst ones on the side of the ball, I think Logan's up there so far. Robbie Henderson hasn't done anything for his team, and Devontae has done absolutely nothing for a 2nd round pick, which has been rough for him. Other bad ones, I mean, I don't think anyone else has been like too aggressively awful. I think it might have been not amazing, but I mean Juju still like has potential to be like a pretty good wide receiver 2 and 4th round. I guess that's kind of I guess where you would want him kind of. I guess Lindsey for a 6, not amazing, but also there weren't a whole lot of running backs after him that even like would have drafted. There's like pretty much running backs after him that were drafted that would have drafted higher than him. So I guess that kind of makes sense. I guess like if we're trying to account like for injuries and stuff, obviously it sucks you lose your Tyreek Hill, and for Lassie he loses his Saquon for his 1st round pick, and Aaron Jones for a 5th hasn't done a whole lot. But I guess 5th is not that bad for that spot either. But yeah, I wouldn't say anyone has any like too like aggressively bad picks besides for like Dylan, and I mean Logan's were rough, but you know Devontae can definitely bounce back.
And Logan didn't really have a lot of options to keep, whereas
Yeah.
Dylan had a lot of different, better options, such as Mahomes.
Yeah, I guess Chubb for a 3rd isn't looking so great for Tyler so far.
Yeah, it is. Chubb's been good.
Chubb's been fine, but he's been underperforming.
He is the running back 12th.
Okay, 3rd round for running back running back 1, running back 2. Yeah, okay. Yeah, I guess that's it for the mailbag, eh?
Mm-hmm.
And that's gonna be it for the show.
All right.
Thank you all for listening to another episode of the Anyone But Cam Baseball Podcast. I've been Frankie.
I'm Cam, the king of the alphas.
Oh my god. And we will get you next week with our weekly recap, I'm sure, a weekly preview, and you guys can just laugh at us for how our power rankings went this week.
I mean, you can tell us why your team was so much better than we said, and we'll be like, no, you suck.
And we'll catch you next week.
Good luck.